Hello everyone, it's Jimmy here and welcome back to the channel. Now today I'm going to talk about the newly released Sony RX1R III. Well, ever since the camera has been released, it's been bashed on the internet for the most part. People criticizing it of the really high price tag, the lack of innovation. It feels like a collection of parts they just scrapped from dustbins in the Sony factory. Well, while all that is valid, I would like to offer somewhat of a different perspective. Now, first of all, I ordered the camera the second it was released because that camera is exactly what I want. And I'll tell you why. I have always been a big fan of the series. I bought the Mark II when it first released, but eventually traded in for a Leica Q because at the time, the Q is not this heavy, not this big. I picked the Leica Q over the Sony, but ever since then, the Q has grown larger, which unfortunately made no sense to me at this day and age because of this. You can get a Leica M10 or Leica M11 with a quite comparable Summicron 28 lens, and this combo is not that bigger or heavier than the Leica Q. Plus, I'm always a fan of 35mm. I feel like the 28 is sometimes a bit too wide for me, so I would personally gravitate towards the Sony RX1R rather than the Leica Q. And the other competitor I would say is the Fujifilm GFX100RF. They have different sensor size, of course, but from a price point perspective and the lack of IBIS, they are each the smallest and the lightest in their class. In that sense, they're very direct competitors. I could see myself gravitate towards the 100RF, of course, for that 100 megapixel sensor. Now, again, being almost the size of a Ricoh GR with a bigger lens is the largest selling point of the Sony. And that is why I think from a spec perspective, I understand what Sony is doing. For example, they got rid of the tilty flippy screen because they want to keep this camera at the same size as the last gen, and I'm all for that. And also they made the buttons flash to the camera body, which I think aesthetically speaking is really nice. They got rid of the pop-up EVF, making it more like a A7CR style EVF, which is no big deal for me. But one gripe is that they didn't upgrade the EVF to be, higher end like on the Leica Q3 or the Fuji GFX100RF. Oh, and about the lens, which is a very important factor for a fixed lens camera. For the Leica Q, even though the lens hasn't been updated for 10 years also, but the Q lens has always been fantastic. For the GFX100RF, the lens is really sharp, but it falls a bit flat. And for the Sony, if you look at those sample photos from the last gen, compare it to, for example, the Fuji or the Leica, you'll notice that the lens is of a much older design, and you can tell from the chromatic aberrations and the sharpness. So a lot of people will be arguing, maybe Sony should update that lens, and it would, more or less justify for the much more expensive price tag. But actually for me, I really dig the rendering of that lens. Ironically, I'm one of those people who prefers older lens designs, and sometimes sharp enough is sharp enough. If you look at the GFX photos, they might be sharp for a reason because it's really good for landscapes and you want that corner-to-corner sharpness. But for the Sony, it's a whole different story. Because of its f2 aperture, you can get a little bit more creative on the depth field side of things. So I feel like sometimes you don't need that wide open corner-to-corner sharpness. And that lens is actually really characterful. The color rendition and the bokeh is really smooth. So I actually prefer an older and more characterful lens on that 61 megapixel sensor. I know there are people who want that, really sharp look, and for that I understand. But if you are after characters, I think you will love that lens. Now, last but not least, the price tag. Yes, it's on the higher side. It's almost the same as a medium format Fuji camera, not that far from the Leica Q3. Well, Leica is Leica. They can charge whatever they want and people will still be buying them. So it's an outlier. So if it ends up being I would say around $4,000-ish camera, it will be reasonable. But the thing is, these type of cameras, they're never meant to be for the mass. The Leica Q is for, Leica fanboys who doesn't care about pricing at all. The Fuji GFX100RF is even more niche because this is strictly for those who, want a more compact package but still want that fantastic image quality without the need for lens changing mechanisms. So that's a very niche market. So is the Sony. I mean, you've already got the A7CR, which is spec-wise a better camera than this newly released X1R Mark III, and it's about half the price. That camera can change lens, same sensor, got IBIS, so any rational being will pick that camera over the X1R Mark III. But for those of us who want the smallest full-frame camera with the best image quality, with a characterful lens, there's just no other options. That's why I ordered it the second it was released. Now, of course, all these are based on specs and speculations. Once I get my hand on it, I will release a more detailed review video of the Sony camera. So stay tuned if you're interested. But again, like I said in the very beginning, while everybody is bashing that camera, I see why some people will still pick it up, despite of its unreasonable price tag and the dated tech in the camera. Okay, I guess that's it for today's video. I'll see you in the next one. Cheers, bye.